Hello everyone and welcome back to another exercise. So in this exercise we are going to make a six-sided dice. And so for this we can go ahead and just start with the default cube that Blender spawns with. And so I'm going to go ahead and move into edit mode, and I'm going to grab this and move it up by 1 just so the bottom of our dice will be on the XY plane. And so the first thing we need to do is we need to subdivide this. So I'm going to go ahead and subdivide, and you need 12 cuts. And the reason you specifically need 12 cuts is we're going to be making some holes for our dots. And so you want there to be kind of a gutter of 2 blocks diagonally before you select this dot, and you want there to be an even number of spaces between the dots. Like if you're making the 6 side, you want there to be 3 blocks between the top and the middle, and 3 blocks between the middle and the bottom. And again, these specific, I guess, dimensions or amounts of gutter space have to do with the way that we're going to make the dots. And so this is just to make sure that we have enough geometry to work with. And so now we've got our cube subdivided, but let's go ahead and take care of the edges. So we want to bevel the corners just a bit. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to select all 8 of our corners. So all 4 at the top, and then all 4 at the bottom. And we're going to do a Control B and just kind of drag it. It doesn't matter. It's not going to appear to do anything. And the reason is we're working with edges, and we don't have any edges selected. But if you go to vertices, boom, you notice we get the bevel that we want, and this is exactly what we want. So we just want to make kind of the edge fold in to where it's kind of this, weird, is that a tesseract? No. Whatever the shape is. And so now we've got our beveled edges. So I'm going to be doing something very specific, so I don't know if any of you have ever looked at a D6, but the sides opposite to each other always equal 7. So we're going to start with 1 and then 6, and then move to 3 and 4, and then 2 and 5. So for the one side, go ahead and we'll do with a front view for the one. So go ahead and select the very center of your dice, and we're going to delete that. And you want to make sure to delete edges. And the reason why, and you can't really see, you already notice a problem, that when you delete, if you're in the front view, you can't really see that you deleted anything. And so because of this, what we're going to do, let me Control Z to undelete. We're going to use Control plus just to select this front edge of our cube. We're going to use Control I to invert our selection, and we're going to tap H. Now what H does, it looks like I deleted the mesh. I have not done anything to the mesh. The mesh is just hidden. And so this is a really powerful tool for situations just like we ran into. So now if I delete my face and again do edges, you can see I get this nice cross shape, and this is exactly what we want. And so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to working with points. We're going to select all 4 of these inner points, and just like we did with the bottle, we're going to choose dissolve. When we do that, you notice we get a really nice, we get a very nice circular shape. Okay, and so now we're going to go ahead and switch back to working with edges, and we are going to, again, this is going to be some very, very specific extruding. And so we are going to extrude. We're going to clamp along the y-axis, and you're going to want 0.15. And then close out the face with F, and then do a Control B, and just go ahead and click or hit Enter, because we also want a very specific bevel and very specific shape. So the shape, you want to make sure that's at 0.5 if it's not, and for the width, you want 0.125. And then you want to up the segments to 3. And the reason we're doing all these really specific measurements is we want all of our dots to have the same depth and shape. Like we don't want one side of the dice to have dots that are a lot deeper. And so this is just to keep things consistent and to make a higher quality object whenever we're done. And so now we are done with the first side, and so to get all our geometry back, you just hold down Alt and press H, and you notice everything comes back into view. And so now we'll go ahead and make the sixth side, and so that's just Control 1 to go around to the other side. And so same thing, I'm going to go to working with faces, select everything, invert, and hide. And now, still working with faces, we're going to go ahead and select just like I showed you at the very beginning. And so we're going to delete, not delete, delete edges. And then go to working with points. And if you have box select enabled, you can actually hold down Shift and just select all of these really, really quickly. And then X, and you want to dissolve. There we go. And now we switch back to 2 to work with edges. And the reason you want to work with edges for this is, like, let's say I just wanted to do this with points. If you try to loop select this and then hold down Shift and loop select this, you notice it selected the center. Well, that's because we're working with vertices, and so it's going to select everything that these vertices contain. So by selecting edges and then doing Alt and then Shift Alt, you notice these stay unconnected or unselected, and that's exactly what we want. So very quickly, go ahead and just loop select all of these. And I'm going to rotate a little bit so I can see what I'm doing. We're going to extrude, clamp to the y-axis, and this time we're going to want negative 0.15. And then just close out faces. And then Control B, enter. Segments are already 3, shapes already 5, so that means all we need is 0.125. And we've got our sixth side. And as you can see, once you kind of know the steps, this goes really quickly. It's more of just repetition. And this is one reason that I really, really like this exercise, is because it really helps to drill some of these key commands in. And so now just Alt-H to unhide everything, and we'll go ahead and move over to the 3 view. And just to make things easy to kind of process, we're going to make this the 3 side, which is kind of the average between 1 and 6. So do Control I, hide it, make sure you hit it. And so for 3, it's just going to be selecting the middle, and then these two catty cornered. Delete our edges, switch to working with vertices, and we're just going to use Shift, grab all of these, and then dissolve vertices. Switch to working with edges, select these. And so now I need to extrude. Now it's important to note that the X axis is kind of inverted. So the first, at least I believe we're on the inverted side. So the first time we extruded on the Y axis, we extruded into the positive Y direction, but this time we're actually going to extrude into the negative X direction. And then just close those faces, do a Control B, and then there we go. And then do Alt H to unhide, and then flip around with Control 3, and just keep on going. Like I said, this goes pretty quick once you know what to do. Alright, and so this is going to be the 4. So we're just going to select all 4 corners, delete edges, go to working with vertices and select the vertices. Then dissolve, go to working with edges. And if you were keeping track, this is going to be extruding in the X direction, and this time it's just going to be positive 0.15. Close out. And then for the bevel, 0.125. Then Alt H. Okay, and so now we're going to the top, and now we've got the cursor to kind of help us, but it's not that hard to find the center on this, but let's go ahead and make it a downhill trek for us. So we'll do the 5 first since it has more dots. Okay, delete edges. Oh, and we forgot to hide. That's okay. I'll go ahead and just, yeah, didn't like it. All right, it's okay. We'll just go ahead and select. If we have a little bit of the side showing, it's okay. All right, so 7, see, just fine. And go to working with points. Select all those. Just as important of a step of modeling is being able to recover or get back to a good state when you mess up. So that's the reason I leave my boo-boos in. And dissolve vertices. Go to working with edge. Okay, and so we're above the cursor right now, and so we're going to extrude on Z, and it's going to be negative 0.15 face, Control B, and then 0.125. All right, Alt H, and then finally, let's go to the last one. And this time we're going to remember to hide first. Make things easier on ourselves. All right, and this will be the 2. And so for this, it'll be just like the 3, except for no middle dot. And so now we'll delete edges. Go to 1. Dissolve vertices. Select. Kind of rotate. Extrude Z, and this time positive 1.5. Close faces. And then bevel 0.125. All right, and then let's go ahead and do Alt H to unhide. Just to make sure we didn't mess everything up, we'll select everything and do Shift in and move back into object mode. This is no longer a cube, this is a dice. Or, you can call it a D6 too if you want to be really specific. I'll go ahead and call it a D6. Since if you're into role-playing games, you may be familiar with, different types of dice. Okay, and so for this, let's go ahead and shade smooth, and my goodness. Well, that looks a little bit funky, right? Well, no worries. Once again, our friend, the subdivision surface modifier, comes to our rescue, and if we crank this up to 2, just like that, you notice we have a really nice looking dice model. And so, this about wraps it up for the modeling of this. And so you even notice, those little pivoted corners that actually makes a really nice beveled corner. And I mean, you can up this a little bit more if you want. I don't think it really makes too much of a difference. But go ahead and save this out. I just call it dice. And once we get into modifiers, or excuse me, not modifiers, once we get into materials, we'll actually make our dice have some colored pits. And, if you want, we can do I'll do 2 different types of dice. I'll do the standard white, and then we'll do the red Vegas style dice, which I really like because they're see-through. And so it's a really good exercise on making transparent objects. But yeah, that's our dice. I hope you enjoyed making it with me. And if you did, be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you next time.